SaaS company who grew their revenue from seven figures, spend so much time on LinkedIn. And also today we're going to be with Patrick Trumpy, who is the CRO and the co-founder of TaskBase. So thank you so much for being with us, Patrick, and excited to have you.
Thanks for the invitation, Jordan. Excited to discuss the topics with you and for the conversation. Looking forward to the next
Nice.
45 minutes.
Perfect. So, I mean, for those of you who haven't heard of you yet, can you give us a little bit of background about first off your schooling and then how everything came to be for TaskBase?
Yes. So originally, I'm Swiss-based, and after 1 year of army, I went to university, studied political economy actually in Switzerland at the university in Fribourg, and I really desperately wanted to move out from my home. And Switzerland is quite small, so there are not many options where you can go um, to actually move out from your hometown. And that's what I wanted. So Fribourg it's the area where the French-speaking part and the German-speaking part come together. And that meant that I couldn't rely on my parents anymore for money and funds because I have three sisters and my parents weren't in the like lower middle class, not even I'd say. So we were struggling with money from time to time, and luckily only one of my sisters also wanted to go to university. So I decided to go there, and I had to start to work quite soon. And one thing that I would never have wanted to do was sales. I mean, I think it's unlike, let's say, I mean, not sure how it's in Canada, Jordan, but the US seems to be a bit different. But I think in a lot of European countries, the sales is not a real, like, it's not a real profession or not considered as such from
Mhm.
parents. I think no parents would recommend their kids to go or do sales. So it wasn't an option for me either. But I got into it anyway because I applied at a company that did financial consulting. So I thought financial consulting doesn't, I mean, it's not sales or it doesn't sound like sales, but it was a bit of a trap, a funny trap, because I went to this hiring discussion, which was strange because I always imagined hiring to be them asking me stuff, but it was the opposite way. They kind of made a lot of uh, yeah, they talked about the company, about how great that is, what they do, and I said, okay, I start. And then on the second day I was there, we had to write down they came with a list of empty names and said, okay, write down all your friends. And write down the phone numbers and now call them and book a meeting to do a financial advisory thing. That's how I got into sales, actually not intended, but I was already too far to say no, I'm not going to do that. So I did that and did B2C sales for like 4 years. Had my own office, opened my own office after 1 year working there where I studied. But after 4 years, I had the opportunity to move on to one of the first AI startups in Switzerland, Starmind, joined with 20 people. We were 20 people. I was one of the second account executive who started in Switzerland after a year of selling to big brands like Nestle, Novartis, Roche. I think those are probably also known around the world. I moved to Germany, was responsible for the German market, then to New York, was VP of sales for our New York branch with about 10 people. Didn't get my visa in 2016, or no, that was 2018. And then went back, joined a French startup at 100K ARR, quickly grew to 2 million and then sold it 5 times ARR about 2 years later. Um, and I joined Unique, and that's probably where we're going to talk about afterwards, Jordan, because at Unique is where I started to post on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Um, Unique was selling software to salespeople in the software business, a bit similar to Gong. That's where we started. I joined there. We had zero revenue, zero clients. I got the first client. I joined as a CSO. There were already two salespeople. Got the first client, and also The company is now at 8 million or something, or 10 with after 4 years, and series beyond Series A. So very successfully, that was a really successful encounter there. But then one of my best friends, he asked me to join Taskbase. I didn't have any reason to move companies, honestly. It was working really well at Unique. But then there were two, three things because I already worked with my best friend at the company before, and I really enjoyed the experience. So two, three things were like, okay, ah, let's do it anyway. And then I joined Taskbase 1.5 years ago as late co-founder, because the company existed for a little bit before, and joined as late co-founder, and now that's where I am. Quite a long intro, but between school and now, it's also quite a long time, I'd say. So
No, for sure. I mean, it was a loaded question, so but I appreciate you going into details for that. So one of the points that you mentioned was with Unique. So this is where you joined as the CSO, and this is also where you started posting on LinkedIn too. What was the correlation of you starting to post on LinkedIn and then joining this company?
So yeah, actually, I did start to write a few weeks before, or 1 month before. Obviously, I knew that I'm going to join. And the CEO of the company that I worked then, he actually already in 2019 said, Patrick, LinkedIn is going to be big. We should start to post. He actually did a 30-day challenge to post every day. Stopped it, unfortunately, after like 20 days. It takes some consistency and some discipline, I guess, at the beginning. And it is really hard. I'd say it's really hard if you have no commercial commercial interests covered, which is a struggle I have now, to be honest. Well, Taskbase doesn't benefit of my posting much, other than I probably can hire people really fast. That's quite easy for me. I don't. That is worth something for sure. At Unique, I hired people through LinkedIn that would have cost us otherwise more than 200. I calculated it once, more than 200K in recruiting services, which we had at that time to hire about 27 people within 6 months. So we were growing really fast, and I needed that was really helpful. So, but Unique was really, there were so many interests that came together that I had no reason not to post. I needed to hire a lot of people really, really quickly. So I started right before. We had a sales tool that was, as I said, similar to Gong. We recorded calls, used those for coaching, gave some insights, and so on. We pivoted a year later because we realized no chance in that market, not interesting enough. We have no chance against Gong and other companies. So we pivoted to the financial market after about 1.5 years in the VC crisis, when we had to lay off about half the team. So that was a really rough time. And because of that, we did back down a bit, start basically from scratch, but still made it to 8 million in like 4 years. So it was tough, but I had a lot of interests. I hired a lot. The people who bought from us were the ones who benefit from my posts the most. Other sales leaders, salespeople, obviously a lot in scale ups. That was our ICP, 50 to 200 people, fast growing, a lot of salespeople who were hired, and that basically was the area. And also I realized, I mean, writing just gives more clarity to my own thinking. So sometimes back then I wrote about stuff that I basically just implemented, also to have a check, an external check. Somebody has done it before. Is that something that is a bit out of the ordinary? And yeah, that's what I did quite a lot. Also bring more clarity in my own thinking. Wrote 2 articles about sales methodologies because I was thinking a lot about it. About discovery calls is something that I've been thinking about, or like the initial calls with customers, is something I've been thinking about a lot. And it just comes it's just amazing how much clarity you get when you write down your own stuff. These three things made it impossible for me not to start. And then I also obviously, luckily, I'm not sure why, or I actually don't know the reasons, because I do see some people who keep posting and posting, and they post good stuff, but it doesn't seem to accelerate or doesn't seem to go anywhere. It seems to sometimes be, between 5 and 20 likes a post. And I think if that's the case, you can lose the motivation really
Mhm.
easily. I mean, you need, and we know that in sales especially, you need small wins. If a company doesn't grow, if a company doesn't get ahead, especially in the sales department, you have such a big struggle of keeping the team you have, because that usually means also people don't reach their targets very well. They're obviously not happy. The same with posting. You need some kind of progress. And I did see that progress. And I also was lucky, I'm 100% sure that is mostly luck. Okay, of course, if you fire out 1,000 posts, that one will become viral is really likely compared to when you put out like 30 posts. I was lucky to get two viral posts in the first 30 days. I posted like one was 1,200 likes, the other one about 500, 600, something like that. That would have been called viral back then. Not sure if that's still the case, but it was kind of whoa, okay. And that's where you see the effect. That keeps you motivated, because then it's like it could happen again. If it never happened, it's tough, I guess. And I was lucky enough to not to be in
Yeah.
that spot.
And those two posts that you made, uh, what were they about? And was there any thought process, like pre-planning that went into it, or was it kind of like on a whim?
Yeah, so that's a good question. My general process is always the same. It's I sit down in the morning, I write my journal. Usually back then I didn't have an 18-month-old son, so I was very strict about it. Got up at, yeah, whatever, and started journaling at 7 to 7:30, and then usually when I wrote about my day, yesterday, and so on, I had some idea, and immediately then afterwards started to write the post, which took me usually 10 to 15 minutes. So I came up with the post on the day I published it, then usually published it at 9 in the morning, or before I started to work, somewhere between 8 and 9 in the morning, Central European time, my time here. So it was really, I don't pre-write posts ever. I never did that. Maybe I started once, but it didn't work out for me. What I do is when I go for a run, I usually have a lot of ideas afterwards. So I write down when I'm running some ideas, and the journaling brings a lot of ideas. So that's typically my writing process. So it's really most of the time what happened the day before, and after 30 days, what I realized quite quickly after 30 days posting, then you think of posting all your day, basically. You're like, you go, or I had a cold call, and then I was like, oh, I can post that cold call tomorrow. So I posted the script of the cold call tomorrow because it was something I thought it would be valuable for others. Or I failed at doing something and then post that. So it was really day-to-day stuff. When I wrote the comp plan for my team, I thought comp plan, yeah, I mean, would not have known where to start, so might as well publish the comp plan. Something that was viral is also the transparency. I have a lot of transparency ever since in my team, that because transparency is the key, I think, to, for instance, gender pay gap, right? If everybody knows what everybody else earns, there won't
Mhm.
be any differences. So I was from the beginning at Unique already pushing that we have transparent salaries in the sales team. People knew where they were. We had clear how you can progress in the career plan, also how you get one level up and what you will be earning and so on. So that was all set. These kind of things were performing quite well. My first one was, I think, a cold email. in 2019, I had a cold email campaign that I sent out that got, I think, 71% reply rate. It was 80% open rate, 71% reply rate, and I got 20% meetings. So I sent 200 emails, got 40 meetings from it. That was a real example. Took a screenshot of everything, and it was an it was an easy persona. I'd say it was head of public affairs or head of compliance in Swiss association. So it's not a persona that gets a lot of cold emails. I must assume, and then I posted about like the email I wrote and the structure of that. People are always interested in that for sure. I wouldn't write that email anymore like I wrote it back then. But I think, yeah, that was one of the posts. So really day-to-day stuff.
And people also, I think they're very afraid of putting out the framework and like the step by step of exactly what they do and having this transparency, especially when it's on LinkedIn or especially when it's anywhere public. Did you ever have that have to like overcome that because you're worried, oh, what are people going to say? There's people that I really know on this, and it's a very professional platform. Was there anything that really stopped you?
No, not really, actually. Stopped me from posting, you
Yeah,
mean, or kind of blo
or made you like kind of nervous about, oh, maybe I shouldn't post this. Maybe this is too much.
Yeah, good question. I think I did. I think so that's a bit of a, it can happen to me that I'm too
Mhm.
transparent for certain, that I'm not considering certain interests. That can happen. I had two cases that I remember. One was I'm not 100%. I wrote about. I think I did write about the ICP change that we've done at Unique, like from tech companies to financial services, and we have not communicated anything to our investors yet. And then Manuel was like, "Ooh, hey Patrick, I mean the CEO, he was like, be careful writing things like that because our investors could see it, and we haven't really, communicated that, and I haven't really thought about that at all. I didn't have that in mind. So it can happen that with the transparency, or sometimes also very honest, like maybe a lack of empathy sometimes that you don't consider everybody who's like everybody's. How could everybody feel about it? That sometimes I have to really learn, or I had to learn, like when I was 18 or 19. I didn't get that from, I'd say, all, in different grade. I mean, for me, it's not you're empathetic or not empathetic. It's really you're on a scale, somewhere on a scale. My wife is probably on the scale very high, and I'm somewhere in the medium area, I would say. I'm not. There are some people really good at it, and some uh, really bad, or not really bad or good. It's I don't want to judge because we how much can we do about it? But so one case was we had I was a referee at a it was a really good idea, and I think the execution was also good. That there was a cold call championship. I played the client and then gave feedback. It was basically a kind of a cold call championship where I was in the final, the referee for the two guys, and then the day after I posted the discussion I had and my feedback, and that wasn't so well received from the other person. Didn't want that to be published, basically. And sometimes, yeah, if I'm like, hey, well, you know, I think, but others can learn from it. But you also do have to consider, like, how could somebody feel? I just remember that was about a year ago or somewhere that I thought, yeah, I have to be careful how transparent or like that's the right. That's the problem with transparency. Transparency is hurtful, can be hurtful. The easiest example is my wife asks me, "Is this a nice dress?" And I say, "No, I'm honest. I'm transparent, right?" But it's not kind. Obviously I can say it in a kind way, but still, it's not. It's not nice. It's not. It's so transparency can be hurtful, and not everybody can live with this. People with a bit less self-confidence, it is harder to deal with that. And I have to, recognize that, be empathetic of that. That's sometimes not that easy. But didn't have many, so I really remember that case uh, with the cold call. But other than that, I'm surprised how little happened with the transparency I post. I mean, that's I've been working with now the CEO is my best friend privately as well. I mean, he never said anything. Maybe one or two cases at Unique, but other than that, um, it's actually surprisingly no or little. The opposite is the case. I mean, I'm also surprised how I've never gotten a negative feedback that I didn't deserve. Maybe sometimes you have a discussion and the discussion is heated up, but then I'm also kind of a bit more blunt with my answers or things like that, and I deserve also blunt or maybe negative answers. That's okay. But I've never gotten anything like negative that didn't have a reason to be there. So that's surprising me because I do see sometimes people post about that they get a lot of shit from others. I've never gotten anything, honestly, never that I didn't deserve. Maybe 4 or 5 times that I did deserve. That was okay, but never gotten anything negative. So there's no kind of to your question like were there any blockers or something that stops you? From that perspective, really zero. Like people are really nice writing messages and bit like you did, or like you did. So yeah, it's encouraging more than the other.
Yeah, I would definitely say so too. When even when you were transitioning from Unique to task-based, this is kind of taking a little bit of a turn with the conversation. But was there also a time where you had to like pitch your team and say, hey, I think it would also be a good idea for me to be writing posts on LinkedIn or for the CEO, the CTO to also be writing on LinkedIn, and you would kind of have to explain like what the ROI would be on this because it takes some time to accumulate, right? So it's not like overnight.
That's right. Yeah, I never had to do that. Because yeah, at Larry when I actually started, the CEO actually pushed me to do it. At
Oh,
Unique, as I mean, the CEO Manuel Grenacher, he also said we have to be active. He wants everybody to be active on LinkedIn. Actually,
everybody.
everybody. Now I also saw that he made the CTO, who is really one of the introverted people I know, who's posting regularly, like 3 times a week or something. And Manuel is also posting regularly. So the co-founding team is extremely active anyway. And when I joined Taskbase, for me, I don't start that discussion anymore because you don't get. I'm not going to be hired by somebody who then tells me I have to stop. There's no point for me for that, obviously, and I don't think it's going to happen. It's probably the opposite way that at some point I might work again or work in an area where my LinkedIn brand is makes a bit more sense. Now we can't use it at all. Some connections I have or some stuff that I work on, Sales Playbook, where I'm invested in, who company that is supporting Swiss and German, Swiss, and Austrian, and also other startups to scale. There is probably the closest connection. I'm invested there, and I also help them sometimes with some cases where people want me as a coach, but I don't have. I invest maybe 1 hour a week or so, not more into
Mhm.
this. But yeah, no, I had mainly supporters, and when I started at Unique, I also pushed my team to do it. I think we got even an award for that in Germany for I don't remember, but it was something like I had a lot of people that really liked that. So just posting yourself is role
You
model
got,
enough that other people.
sorry, it was an award for posting on LinkedIn?
Sorry, say again.
Was it an award for posting on LinkedIn?
An award, yeah, exactly, yeah, but the whole team basically, because I
Oh,
had
okay.
about 27 team members, and out of those, about 10 were posting really regularly, at least, or
Well,
15 even. So quite a lot, and everybody was really into that kind of game. And I think Unique was known rather quickly in Europe for, I mean, the brand was known quite quickly in Europe, I would say. In the sales space, obviously, that's where we are. We are in our little bubble as well, for sure. But yeah, so we got an award for the whole company, the sales team, posting and bringing, yeah, sharing their learnings basically.
nice, because it's really interesting insight. I follow a few people who do sales on LinkedIn, and like, man, there's so much to post because like after every sales call, I feel like there's a lesson uh, that comes from it. Maybe if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Absolutely, yeah.
you also mentioned one thing I wanted to go back to that kind of piqued my interest was that you said that when you transitioned from one company to another, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you said that there was like there was sometimes be like no commercial interest for uh, when you were posting.
Yes,
Maybe
now
I'm,
basically, I don't have any commercial interests
oh,
or
okay.
not much. The connection, and I did feel it at some point also in the motivation. It was a bit difficult to get back at the beginning of the year. At
Mm,
Unique already, when we pivoted it Unique from the sales space more to the first, like two things happened. First, we had to lay off a lot of people, and
mm,
there was no growth visible in the next 12 months for sure. Now the company is double the size again, that or three times the size that after we had to size it down a little bit, not by half, a third or so, but half of the salespeople. So salespeople was targeted or was hit more. So we pivoted to the financial part and area. We had different use cases afterwards, and it wasn't the same target persona that benefits from my posts anymore. Afterwards, it was like, yeah, it was head of private and corporate clients of banks and insurances and in local markets. I don't think they read really my posts, not at all. So and I didn't have to grow my team anymore. The only thing that was left is basically me learning personally from my posts and interacting and helping others don't make the same mistakes. That was what's left. What was left actually end of 2021. No, end of
mm,
2022. So beginning 2023, I was struggling a bit. Should I go back? Should I just leave it? But it was also a time that it was really easy to do it actually. So I mean, now it takes me 15 minutes a day. I'm struggling again now a little bit because sometimes I think in life you don't have the same learnings over all the days anymore. So I struggle to find new learnings at the moment, a bit more than a year ago. Last year was very easy, and the year before as well.
mm,
But in these transitions at Unique to the financial services market, that was a transition that was quite hard to continue. And after I joined Taskbase or at the beginning of this year. Since the beginning of this year, it is a bit harder.
mm. And what are the biggest lessons that you've learned so far, like in comparison to being from Uniqlo to task-based, or even if like overall lessons, if you want to go in that direction?
What are the biggest? Sorry, I didn't get the.
What are the biggest directions that you've, sorry, biggest lessons that you've learned overall from the transition from Uniqlo to task-based?
In general or sales related or related to posting?
I would say first off in terms of sales, because we have a lot of sales audience too, but also in terms of posting. So both avenues.
Yeah, I mean, so a painful lesson now is even though you have a system that really works easily, it takes not much time. It's like 10, 15 minutes a day. It is it does become difficult again to have
Mm.
ideas every single day. That's for sure. So I mean, okay, that's a quite a painful learning. But then on the other hand, what is also quite nice is that you can, because if you grow your follower base by, let's say, 5 or 10K per 6 months, every 6 months you have 5,000 or 10,000 followers more. That also means you can use a lot of content that you already posted like a year ago or half a year ago. You can repost that again, maybe write it slightly differently, but you can reuse it. That's something Justin Welsh was promoting quite a bit. One of the biggest creators. He actually started in 2019 when my CEO back then said, "Hey, Patrick, you should start as well." So that would have been a good time. And so that's something that works. I'm I struggle a bit with it because I don't want to. So I want to also get new learnings out for the people I'm already connected or who already follow me. I don't want to be like I see a lot the people that I've been following for 4 years, 5 years, some creators that I supported heavily and they supported me heavily. So I think that's another thing that's quite a learning. If you will grow up with other followers, with other experts at the same time, and it's really helpful. Everybody's supporting each other. You need other people to support you to be able to grow. I don't think it works without commenting, without without interacting with other people. That's really important, I think, on
Mhm.
LinkedIn. But then I do also see that many struggle to bring up new things, especially if you're not a practitioner anymore. And luckily, I still am. I'm not selling sales courses yet. Maybe it's going to happen at some point. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm not selling anything, which is quite easy. And I'm basically practicing what I write about all day since 10 years or more than 10 years. So that's quite easy. So I should be able to come up easier with new ideas, and I want to. But it's getting harder depending on, we grow fast at Taskbase, but there weren't many changes that we've done. I trained the team when I came, and things worked quite well. But we also have our struggles, obviously, in the company. We need to find new markets in order to reach the growth targets and so on. So struggles on a different level, for sure. I think most companies have these. So, but yeah, so
Mhm.
it's still what happens in the first 30 days. Most people cannot keep consistency in the first 30 days. You're constantly like, oh, how can I come up with another idea of a post the day tomorrow? And it's really a struggle. You have to think heavily, and after a certain time it becomes easy, and now it does become a bit more difficult. And I don't want to become that kind of all the time the same stuff. I want to bring new stuff as well.
You kind of also mentioned that you would spend 15 minutes, you would come from a run, and you would be thinking about something, and it really wouldn't take too much time to create these posts. But even now, is there ever a certain point where you're like, I'm going to speak to a certain person and a certain demographic, uh, and just hone in on one type of person?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. It wasn't a big effort. It wasn't a big effort or thinking of um, the ideas. But yeah, at some point, the things we can do in the sales process, they're also finite, and you have certain things that you focus on at some point, or that I focused on at some point, that I find um, most salespeople struggle at, and talking about these points differently. But yeah, it's not it's not easy, I find now, over time anymore. But yeah, you focusing on the persona and just continue.
Perfect. The Trying to keep it within time frame. So I have hopefully we can squeeze two more questions in here. but we do have a lot of founders, a lot of CEOs also who listen to the live streams, and especially a lot of people who are very interested in technology. So if you have a piece of advice for somebody who wants to start off their own software company, what would that one piece of advice be?
Sorry, who wants to start a software company or wants to start posting in a
Wants to
software?
start their software company.
Their software company.
Mm.
Um, Start even though. So what I usually experienced is you have an idea, then you go on to research. You know, you see, oh, there are lots of competitors, lots of other companies who do that, and then try to look for something else. Um, I think if you have an idea and there are lots of competitors out there, it is a good sign, a very good sign. I would actually double down and start your company then, even more so than the other way around. From the three company I've been in, or four companies, sorry, that I've been in, three of them um, didn't have competitors, like direct competitors. There are always competitors who, you know, at the same time sell stuff to the clients, and the clients decide this is more of a priority than something else. And some competitors might be a bit closer of what you do or whatever. But I think if you have these like clear direct competitors, focus on the area with the direct competitors, because that means there is a market, that means there is something there. Because in the three companies, some areas of the company we had no competitors, and when I dove in and and researched the market, or my type of research is teaching the team how to cold call, and then, you know, make calls and get out and learn, but also the deep research feature from ChatGPT is fantastic for that, absolutely fantastic. So that helps me a lot, because I'm not a research kind of person sitting in front of the computer and doing research. But what's the thing usually is that the market is really bad for these areas where there are no competitors. Okay, you might be the first person in the market, so that could be something different. It's a really crazy idea, but I don't think rarely anybody is the first person at whatever they do. So don't feel any like you can't go in because there are competitors. Actually, that's a good sign. I think that's one of the things that I learned in the last four companies, that usually I felt differently at the beginning as well. I was like, yeah, no competitors. Actually, that's good. So let's go. Not so good. Usually, you're done after 50 companies, and there's no more market for that.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. With I think we can squeeze two more questions in hopefully, but because we are a big tech platform, a lot of people watching with AI, so I feel like they would be very disappointed if I didn't ask you a question about AI. So here we go. Like with all the hype going on with AI, do you have any predictions of the future of it and how it's going to look?
Yeah, I'm happily, I'm not in the prediction business, because I think probably 99% of people who are in the prediction business fail. But yeah, it's really hard, honestly. It's hard to say where it's going. I mean, the it looks all very promising, and I think that's that
Mm.
or promising. At least it looks all very like, wow, it will be able to do a lot. But then we also hear that 10% of the use case, 90% of the use cases that companies try, uh, the POCs fail with AI companies. We also do see that some things we can't do yet. It's not accurate enough in certain areas, and some use cases, you know, we throw away because they can't be done with a probabilistic model, which these models all are, right? So I guess one prediction that I have for sure is that what I learned from pretty famous physicists is that the models we have now, the LLMs and so on, they are definitely not the path to AGI, like artificial general intelligence, what everybody talks about, what AI will supersede us humans, and then like that's not the way. There has to be something else that works completely differently in order to reach AGI. So my prediction is AGI is not going to happen with LLMs. I have no idea in what time frame. So I don't think like Sam, okay, he uses that as Sam Altman uses that as a marketing gig, or I don't know if the AGI thing, but quite like David Deutsch is one of these guys, quite a famous physicist in the area. He says it's not at all how in general intelligence would work. It's a very simple probabilistic model that we are using. We can use it for a lot of things. So I do think, on the other hand, on the sales space focused or other spaces as well, I think we do underestimate what it will be able to do. I mean, you can like talk normally with an AI already. So I think, use what I definitely think is that at some point, another prediction would be that humans will not care. We now believe that we will care a lot whether we talk to an AI or to a human being. People who, especially in the sales space, who defend like this. I know you want a human interaction in a sales interaction. You want a human interaction, otherwise you are at a disadvantage. I think we heavily overestimate that. I think if you call an inbound lead, you call somewhere to learn about their product and get insights and quotes in a faster sales cycle, but also, I mean, depends on any stage. But calling a company, and on the other hand, on the other side, having an AI that knows every detail about every single product, about the whole company, that you can ask any questions and it will answer very honestly about everything. Who wouldn't prefer that compared to a salesperson who would also need to be like, yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but I have to discuss that internally. We'll see, blah, and so on. It's the real world. I think that we will prefer the first one, the AI, over a human interaction with the AI. Massively is more competent than humans, and it is more competent than any human here. That's a fact. I mean, definitely more competent than I am in any way. So I think we heavily underestimate that. So it will come into spaces like sales for sure. That's the only thing the only two things I can predict.
Yeah, yeah, because I was always like, oh no, people are gonna want to. My mentality was like people are always gonna want to do like the last sales or like sign off the contract, especially with like a very high ticket sale with an actual person. But it's interesting how you say it that maybe not, maybe that won't be the case.
Hey, maybe not. I don't think, yeah, I think maybe it will turn out completely differently. Now companies write these long RFPs
Mhm.
and then send it out, and salespeople have to answer to these RFPs, compile complex, and that's such time-consuming process. I mean, and I don't. I think at some point every company will just have an API, send your RFPs to this API, and then they send it there, and this is all compiled by an AI. That's the complex sale. So that at least that can be. I have no idea where it goes. That could be a case that this is some place it goes. Maybe, yeah. What I definitely think is that when I thought about this, I definitely think that startups and scale-ups, especially startups, they will definitely still rely on salespeople. They will have to, because if you come with a completely new product,
Mm.
you cover a completely new need. AI is not going to find you, ChatGPT is not going to find you. People aren't thinking of the problem that you solve. That happens a lot, right? Sometimes people have the problem, but they are not really consciously thinking about it. They don't even know. Let's say the example of when they transitioned from horses to cars. I mean,
Yeah.
some people consciously thought, yeah, horses are way too slow. others didn't think about it. They kind of knew, but they didn't think about it. And then something faster comes, and they're like, "Yeah, horses are too slow. Actually, now that I can go 60K, now they are too slow, right?" That's so. But to kind of uncover a non-existing problem and then solve it or have a solution for it, I think that will need salespeople. So definitely startups will still rely for quite a long time on salespeople. Corporates, not sure. I'm not sure. I do hear that a lot with complex sales and so on, but I'm not sure. Not sure if that's going to be
Yeah,
still.
it's interesting because I'm like, it'd be so daunting to like remove the human out of the equation completely, but you never know.
You never know. That's exactly right.
And the last question, and this is will be the wrap, but if you could go back in time and give your 25-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
That's a very good question. You said 20-year-old or
Uh,
25.
is it a big difference if it's
For
20
me,
and 20? Uh,
that would be different. The 20. So why? I tell you why. At 25. So I started reading books at 25, and I would like to tell my 20-year-olds read books earlier. Start to read, to learn everything. Start way earlier to learn. Obviously now, because in this case, right, I would want to give, I'd say, post on LinkedIn earlier. That would be quite good. It helps to learn. Write about journaling. Do journaling earlier because it helps put the the thoughts into like into yeah, more like concrete. It's thinking is becoming so clearly. That's really case. Combining reading and writing is something that is absolutely massively underrated, and it's I mean, I'm not sure if it's underrated, but it's something that had huge impact in my life. So I definitely would tell my younger me to do that much earlier than I did.
Mhm. Perfect. So journaling, reading, and I guess critically thinking and wrapping everything together.
Yes, absolutely. That comes with it. I don't think I was any good at it when I was 20. Not I don't think at 25. I'm still not as good as I would like to be for sure.
Always
But
room
yeah,
for improvement. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, and trying not to. I mean, some stuff is difficult to change, right? We have certain personal habits that are really hard to change, and then do have a certain stubbornness when it comes to somebody comes with an idea that is completely that I'm like, no, it's not gonna work. Then I'm immediately like, not gonna work, even, and I didn't put enough thought to it. So I typically, when somebody says, when Sam, the CEO of Taskbase, comes to me and he brings up an idea, and I'm like, no, man, no, that's not gonna work. I immediately say, no, it's not gonna work. But then I think about it overnight, and at some point, like he said, "Hey, we should change the pricing again to this," and I'm like, "No, that's like how we did it 10 years ago." But then I thought about it overnight, and I'm like, "Hey, actually, it's not such a bad idea." So,
Yeah.
I have a certain stubbornness sometimes that comes with, yeah, that. Well, I had it all my life, so I have to have a system where I'm like, think about it still. Know yourself, obviously, in this direction. That helps quite a lot as well. And reading and writing, obviously, is the best for that, for sure as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It also helps. I journal as well. I have even one right now that I'm taking notes in. And I think it changed so much for me because there's like critical decisions that I need to make. And it's not just something that you can make on a whim. Sometimes you actually have to like visualize it and see like the pros, the cons logically. Because there are also a lot of
Yeah,
times the emotional brain takes hold. So,
absolutely.
well, perfect. Well, we stopped right on time, and Patrick, very much appreciate your time. Is there any place that people can find you other than LinkedIn, or even
No,
adding your LinkedIn
actually
handle?
not. So I'm not like you,
Yeah.
Jordan. You're quite successful on all the platforms. I'm only LinkedIn. I don't do anything else at the moment. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
Sometimes jack of
what
one trade is the best.
absolutely. I mean, try to keep away, get away, or not try to be too much on the other. Or I tried and I deleted the apps. But yeah, email
Mhm.
patrick@taskbase.com. Obviously, email works quite well. I'm answering better on emails rather than LinkedIn for sure.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Patrick, for being on our live with us. This is Patrick Trumpi, the CRO and the co-founder of TaskBase. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Jordan. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And